now let's get into our running back start sits for week 9. It's crazy, already in week 9. We'll go through a couple of these running backs, just throw out, are we going to start them? Are we going to sit them? J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards against Indianapolis. It feels like every single week these two guys are in our start-sit segment. And last week I said I would take Gus Edwards over J.K. Dobbins to end up being the right call. I think this week, though, I am leading towards the Dobbins side just after the efficiency that he had that last game. I don't know how Harbaugh can look at the games that J.K. Dobbins has had and not give him the ball more. But could easily be a 50-50 split here. Both guys, I think, are startable with Mark Ingram out. Are you with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think both are startable. Looking at some of these bye weeks that are going on, injuries and things like that, a lot of people are in desperation situations. So I think you can roll out Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins as long as Mark Ingram's out. I think they're probably going to get some sort of 50-50 split on the carries. And I think Dobbins obviously has a little more upside in the receiving game. So I would take Dobbins over Gus Edwards this week as well, even in a tough matchup against the Colts. But I think you can roll them both out there as RB2s or flexes.
I feel like Edwards is more likely to score, but it's pretty even. And then you give J.K. Dobbins the passing work, which is where he gets that edge. Now let's talk about Le'Veon Bell. He's against the Carolina Panthers. It's a fantastic matchup. They're 29th against the run. Only 6 carries and 3 targets against the Jets. Mahomes ended up just picking the Jets apart. Didn't really need to run. In the second game with the Chiefs, Bell only played 26% of snaps. I think this week is his upside is 15 points if he sees the end zone. I'm only starting him if I'm in a really, really tight spot. Are you willing to plug Lev Bell in with any sort of confidence?
No, not with confidence. I mean, I'd rather start J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards, who we just mentioned, even in a good matchup for Le'Veon Bell. I mean, 26% of the snaps last week isn't going to get it done. 3 receptions is nice for Lev Bell, but only 6 carries isn't going to do it either. I know, we want to keep saying, oh, it was a weird game for the first game with Le'Veon Bell, he was getting worked in. Last week, we're like, oh, that was such a weird game script because they were playing the Jets, so you'd think they were going to run the clock out, but Mahomes just kept throwing 50-yard bomb touchdowns. But at some point, it's like, that's just what the Chiefs do. So regardless of the matchup, regardless of what it is, you got to hold Le'Veon Bell and, quite frankly, CEH as well. You're starting CEH, but you got to hold these guys accountable regardless of the game script, regardless of the matchup, because that's who the Chiefs are. So I'm with you. I think with a touchdown, 15 is his upside. I'm trying to continue to wait and see with Le'Veon Bell. And really quickly, I want to bring this up. I'll try to be quick. But to me, I was thinking about it, and I could, why is this CEH Le'Veon Bell situation not the same as how we viewed Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt before the season? You know what I mean? CEH is the guy who's going to be the one. He's going to get it on the ground, might get a couple receptions here and there. But we expect Bell to get 8 to 10 carries a game, and in a perfect situation, 4 to 5 targets a game. That's kind of the same expectation we had for Kareem Hunt before the season. Obviously, he's emerged in that Browns run-heavy offense, but maybe not this week. But I still like Le'Veon Bell's upside rest of season.
It's not like Clyde Edwards-Helaire absolutely exploded and Lev Bell didn't do anything. CEH was only on the field for 49% of snaps. This season low from him. Saw 6 attempts for only 21 yards, caught all 3 of his balls for 10 yards. So only a 6-point fantasy outing to Le'Veon Bell's 5. This game kind of showed you what the floor can be when it just becomes a game script where Mahomes is going to let loose. Tyreek Hill had a touchdown. Travis Kelce had a touchdown. They were just eating the Jets alive, and the same thing might happen here in Carolina. So with that being said, just realize the floor is a little bit lower for both CEH and Lev Bell, which makes Lev Bell a sit, and CEH a guy you want to temper expectations on. But let's talk about another one who was in our start sits last week, a guy that we were willing to plug in, didn't give you the production you wanted. It's La'Mical Perine with the New York Jets, rookie running back there. He's up against New England here in week 9. Are you starting or sitting him? I think I'm sitting.
I'm sitting. I know the Bills just gashed New England on the ground. The 49ers just gashed New England on the ground. They're actually not stopping the run at all. But, what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? It's kind of like the opposite of that. What happens when, the immovable the immovable object is La'Mical Perine in this situation because he's just not going anywhere. So, yeah, I'm sitting him. The Jets are terrible, and Perine isn't some elite talent. So I'm out on all Jets except maybe Jamison Crowder until further notice.
48% of snaps for Perine, 8 carries, 27 yards, 2 receptions to the air for 6 yards. Just 5.3 PPR points. Not what you want.
Nope.
don't start a Jet unless you absolutely, absolutely, absolutely have to.
If I'm starting a Jet, it is going to be Jerick McKinnon. But I don't feel great about that
Or
either.
J-Jets, Justin Jefferson.
Oh, yeah, we got all sorts of Jets that are outside of New York that are much better options. But Steph, let's move on to this Chargers backfield, who is giving us a lot of headaches. I mean, Justin Jackson's been okay, and then you got Josh Kelly there, and this new emergence of Troy Pope as well. They play the Raiders this week. Which one? Are you starting any of these guys? And if you are, who's it going to be?
It's Justin Jackson. That's the only one. He's the closest thing we have to Austin Eckler. I know the matchup is great, and it makes you want to say, look, let's plug Joshua Kelly in there. Maybe he can break away a few big runs. After a 3.5 fantasy point outing, got 7 carries, had a reception as well that ended up going for -7 yards. Which didn't help you at all against Denver. I mean, Denver is a stingy defense. I'll cut Joshua Kelly some slack. Definitely don't drop him, don't cut him, don't sell him for nothing. I think he could find relevance here again, especially with some easy matchups on the schedule like Atlanta and the Jets coming up here in the near future. But for right now, you can't trust Kelly. This team has completely shifted with Justin Herbert in the game, and it seems like they continue to shift the longer that Justin Herbert is the starter. They're moving to more of a pass-heavy offense. We were seeing the run volume in spades there when Tyrod Taylor was the QB. We're seeing Joshua Kelly and Austin Eckler both in double-digit carry range, and now we're not seeing that at all. For Troy Pope, I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. I don't even know what happened here. Like, can you break this down for me? Because I'm kind of confused. Like, I didn't watch this game. I just saw the box score at the end. I'm like, who the heck is Big Troy?
The breakdown is they want to have a 1-2 punch in this backfield. They wanted that 1-2 punch even when Eckler was active. And Josh Kelly is trash, so they just went to the next guy. That's the breakdown. I mean, Justin Jackson is, to your point, Justin Jackson's a start. Was a little nebulous there for a while, and even with just over 50% of snaps against Denver was really effective. You have to just keep riding that wave. He's getting some receptions as well, which is great to see. So Jackson's an RB2 moving forward until Eckler comes back. Josh Kelly, Troy Pope, leave him on your bench or on the waiver wire.
Asking for a friend here, who would you start? Justin Jackson against the Raiders or DeAndre Swift against Minnesota?
I'd go Justin Jackson.
Nice. I think I would too. Just more secure volume, more secure workload.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till Eckler gets back on this Chargers offense. I know he suffered a really brutal,
it's going to be nice.
Really brutal injury.
Hopefully 2 to 3 weeks is what I'm hearing, so we'll see.
I hope so, man. I'm as a huge Eckler fan, I hope he comes back and he's as good as he was. Just everything's the same, and now he can slide right into an offense that's better than it was, even with Phillip Rivers. Let's talk about one more running back here. Another start-sit. A guy that's really fit into the Sony Michel role with New England. It's Damien Harris, and he has a great matchup against the Jets. Saw 16 attempts, 102 yards, so 6.4 yards per carry, and a touchdown last week against Buffalo. Are you willing to plug Damien Harris back in after a 16-point fantasy outing?
He had a couple big runs in that game against Buffalo, so I don't want to take that away, but you said it. This is like replace the name Damien Harris with Sony Michel. Same stat line, same situation, everything, and you probably would be unwilling to start him. Damien Harris hasn't shown me anything necessarily that's separating him talent-wise from Sony. Now, I will say I think Damien Harris has been better than Sony Michel. It's a pretty low bar, but even having said that, like, he's doing the same thing Sony was doing. He's having a couple of breakaway runs or big 100-yard games here and there, getting the touchdown every once in a while, and just offering nothing in the passing game. So, with Rex Burkhead getting work on the ground and through the air, with James White obviously as the pass catching back, and then with Cam Newton with the potential to take those goal line touchdowns away, I don't want to start Damien Harris. If you have to, you always can end up with a game like this, 102 yards and a touchdown where you're happy, but I'm just not betting on that happening week in and week out. Now, I will say against the Jets, it's a pretty soft matchup, but if I can avoid Damien Harris, I would.
Yeah, he's not a guy that I want to put into a flex spot, because if I'm looking for a flex, I'd rather go with a higher upside wide receiver. I can see some targets, maybe a big reception here or there, like a Marvin Jones. I would much rather flex with Kenny Golladay out than a Damien Harris. But if you are desperate with one of your running back positions, I think Damien Harris is a streamable option against the Jets. And real quickly here, quick side note on New England. What is this offense from Bill Belichick? It seems like they went back to the board and we're just like, let's start everything from scratch. Let's make this the most simple offense possible. It was the most vanilla offense I've ever seen. James White, 4 targets, 2 carries. Damien Harris, no receiving work at all. So literally, we have the receiving back, we have our between the tackles grinder, our Sony Michel type guy, and then Damier Byrd all snaps on the outside, Jacoby Myers all snaps in the slot. Like, what is, like, no creativity at all in the offense whatsoever? Are they just like hoping that Cam Newton's going to carry this team?
It's tough. I mean, when your leading receiver is Jacoby Myers with 10 targets in this game, like they're kind of out of options. I mean, we just talked about Damien Harris, not like the most talented guy in the world at the running back position. They're still giving Rex Burkhead a ton of work. This dude's been around forever. He's like Danny Woodhead light in a way. And then obviously James White is a PPR threat, but if there's nothing downfield, nothing vertical, you can't get any of that underneath stuff going. There's no tight end presence. The offensive line is okay, not great. So Cam Newton's struggling. I don't know if it's a Cam Newton problem, a Bill Belichick problem, or just a weapons and offense problem, but things are looking rough for the New England Patriots, and I think if they can't get it together in the next week or two, they might go into rebuild mode. This might be a hot take, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Jarrett Stidham as the starter by the end of the year.
Wow. I think that is a hot take, but definitely
Whether
not.
it's Cam's fault or not, it's just based on where the team's going. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's not outside of the range of possibilities here. And, right now in the Brady-Belichick debate, Belichick is getting mollywopped by Brady. I mean, dude, we're looking at Belichick took 2 tight ends in the draft, knowing the weapons group they had coming back. I see why Brady wanted to leave so bad, because this group, like Damier Byrd, Jacoby Myers, those are your 2 wide receivers that you're relying on every single week. That's just a tough situation. I know Edelman was there, but he's 35 years old at this point. He's on IR now. It's tough. It's tough to be a Patriots fan after the dominance you've had for 2 decades, but I guess that's just karma for you.